All right, I have started the recording, Mort, and then just to give everybody a heads up, it also does record the chat as well.
Yes, so thank you. When I'm presenting in Google Slides, just on a side note, I always like to get into closed captioning because I think it's a feature that can benefit all students. So when you're adding audio to Google Slides and sharing your presentations and presenting with students, that might be something you want to do as well. I put this in there. We're going to be sharing a couple different websites to get some really fun, engaging Google Slides that are all ready for you. There is this one that actually has about 15 different fun little things like this. So I deleted all of them except this one. So as students kind of join your sessions, sometimes there could be that awkward pause. Well, actually, you're going to have the wait room available, so you're not going to have students join and well, you'll admit them and they might still have like 3 or 4 minutes. So finding the animals or doing something like this can kind of be something to get their mind off other things. So those are the animal questions, but we didn't have time because we were busy chatting about all sorts of wonderful adult things.
Mm-hmm.
So our agenda for today is I'm going to show you how to create audio files using an online audio file creator. You're actually going to learn how to save audio clips, and you're going to learn how to insert audio files right within your Google Slides. You're also going to learn a couple really key features that you can make your slide auto advancing and the audio files themselves audio playing, automatically playing. So to the end user, it might just seem like a seamless video. And I'm going to explain why this is a beneficial feature to learn something like this, and also explain why you might want to use something like QuickTime for screen recording or Screen-O-Matic.
All right, so just like you would do in your lessons with students, we also want to make sure you know what the standards are that we have. And these are actually standards for all of our students and our staff. So we have student standards, and we kind of want you to think about what this might be. Rita's kind of hinted about the listening feature, but for our students, we are trying to help them become a creative communicator and a knowledge constructor with these. And the communicator part is like right now we're talking about how you're pushing content out to students, but this is also a way for students to bring back and share their voice with you. So that's kind of that creative communicator. In terms of educator, you are hitting on the standards of being a facilitator as well as a designer in helping our students acquire the knowledge that they need.
Thank you, Ms. Voss. So I got asked the other day, why am I showing a session like adding audio to Google Slides? Why don't I just show how to use one of the online video capturing tools or to show QuickTime? And that's a really great question. So I thought I'd specifically point out some benefits to doing it this way. There's not really a right or a wrong way. This just adds different features. So I don't know about you, but I've done several video recordings of Google Slides only to find out that I wish I could re-record one slide, or I wasn't as prepared on slide 27 and I kind of fumbled and did and I said right. And so with Google Slides, you can just re-record the one slide you need. And that's a huge benefit. The other thing is you do not have to post this to YouTube or anything. I think we're pretty comfortable if creating Google Slides. If you've joined this session, you've probably created a Google slide before, and you know how you can easily just share it with students without going to YouTube and stuff. So adding audio, once it's added, you just share the Google slide presentation with your students. So that's nice that you don't have to post it to YouTube. Students can rewatch just the slide that they need to. So I've often rewatched presentations from many people and I rewind and I either undershoot or overshoot and I have to go back 45 seconds further than I even wanted to. And I also run into buffering issues or the video is slower to play. So you don't have to have any of that. They can just rewatch the slide. And you're able to share this process with students so they can use their voice when they want to submit assignments and add things for presentation. So those are just some of the many benefits, but I'll let you be the final decision maker as to whether or not you think what we're going to be showing you would be useful. So the process kind of comes in like 3 different steps. You're first going to use an online audio creator. And I'm going to jump out and show you how to do this. There's no account needed, so you don't have to authenticate with Google. It doesn't store any of these audio files. They typically get saved to either your desktop or your downloads folder, and then you add them to your slide. And then we're going to have time to show you what's highlighted there in yellow, how you can do some advanced features and have them on autoplay and things of that nature.
And Rita, while you're popping out, let me just insert.
Morning, everyone.
Oops.
So I did.
I have to. Go ahead.
Put the presentation link in the chat feature. And once again, like, I'll be here helping Rita, but I'm also watching the chat. So, you know, feel free to use the chat if you've got some questions or need clarifications.
Thank you, Ms. Voss.
Yep.
So on the next slide, you're going to hear a sample recording, and then I'm going to jump out and I'm going to demo how I did this. So I'm going to hit next.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so glad you were able to join us.
So
Good morning, everyone.
How I did that is we're going to all go, well, I'll demo it first. I'm going to go to this website called Online Voice Recorder. So that link is in the presentation, but it might be beneficial if you watch me demo it once before you jump in. So you get to this screen and there's this blue area here. And what you do is you click this red button. So I'm going to click it. Good morning, everyone. I am so excited to show you the 3 things we're going to work on today. I hit pause because I have to remember what are the 3 things we're going to work on today. And then when I start it again, I can continue. The 3 things we're going to work on today are learning how to use an online audio recorder, adding it to Google Slides, and then sharing it with our audience. I might hit the pause again, and then I think, am I done? When you are really done, then you're going to hit the bigger button again. It's now white. It was red when we started. So I hit that, and it automatically shows me my audio file. Now, I can trim some out of the front and out of the back, but I would caution you, this isn't a full-fledged editor like in GarageBand. I would consider how much you're stating on each slide. So my thought is, if you have to do a lot of editing, it might be easiest for you just to re-record that slide. I can play it and listen to it if I want.
Good morning, everyone. I am so excited to show you the 3 things we're going to work on today. The 3 things we're going to...
So you can see how when I paused it, it stopped. Now, when I click on the Save button, I have mine directing to my desktop. Yours might be going to your download folder, or yours might be going to another folder that you have indicated where Google Chrome puts your stuff. So you might, for your first one, you might just have to find it. Now, when you do audio recording like this, I would definitely name it like this is slide 1 and say this is audio training, because you're going to see in the end how naming your slides might be beneficial for you to then insert your slides on a certain presentation. And I know some of you might be thinking, well, I'm really organized in my Google Drive. I'll just make a folder and put the audio files in there. They don't really act and work exactly that way. So naming them like slide 1 audio training would be great. I'm just going to put mine on my desktop here. I know you can't see my desktop, but it actually went right to my desktop as an audio file. So before we move on to the next part, we actually want to give you time to go ahead and try going to this website, and you're probably going to have to mute yourself and maybe mute us if you want. And I'd like you to try 1 or 2 audio recordings and make certain that you know where they are and where to find them. And
Rita?
Yes.
We did have a few people in our last session that their files went to iTunes. So just like if you can't find it, you might want to check iTunes.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Voss. And the one common denominator we found with if your audio went to iTunes is they were big iTunes users, like they were music instructors. And so they went into their Chrome settings and they changed download audio to specifically their desktop. Now you don't have to do that. We're just trying to give you a few ideas.
Yep.
So I'll be quiet for a few minutes and then Ms. Voss has something to share, but I want to give you.
They asked, how do they mute the presenters? Was the question that came up into the chat.
So what you can do is on your keyboard on your laptop, you can just turn the volume all the way down.
Thank you, Ms. Mortensen.
Hey Rita, this is Kayleen. Can you say one more time how to make the file not go directly to iTunes? Like, how do you save it? It went to my downloads, but then it immediately opened in iTunes. How do I change that?
Sure. So I don't know if anybody's else immediately open, but under Chrome, you can just go ahead and close that. Under Chrome, you can go to Preferences and you can see under Advanced where your downloads are going. So here's my downloads right here. So my location I have on my desktop, and mine do not automatically open in iTunes. And I don't know if you clicked on it to listen to it, maybe then it opened in iTunes.
Yeah, that's what happened. I clicked on it to listen to it and then it went to iTunes, but I see where I can change it to ask where to save each file before downloading.
Mm-hmm.
And I would assume that was what I would want to do. Thanks for that.
Sure. So somebody else had asked where to find out where your audio files are going. I'm using Chrome as my web browser. And under Chrome, up in the top, Ms. Fossey, you can hear me, correct? Okay. Under Chrome in my web browser, you're going to go to Preferences. And when I click on Preferences, this screen will appear with all sorts of different settings on, your web browser. Your advanced typically is not showing. It's at the very, very bottom. So when you click on advanced, you can see under the downloads, it'll show where your downloads are going. And these are downloads for anything you download off Chrome. It might be a PDF. It might be something that the district sends. So I typically have mine going to my desktop so that I can find it and then move it to where I need it to be. Others choose to keep it in their downloads or to have things going to another folder. Okay, give me a thumbs up if you had a chance to practice the audio recording and save something to your desktop. Did we all get a chance to do that? Are we okay to move on? I got a thumbs up from Lizette. Still working on changing the downloads. Okay, Deb? You got other thumbs up? Okay, the next thing I do want to mention is when you're doing audio, it's a great time. You know, podcasts are so popular now. So when you do audio, it's a really great time to practice those theater skills we all learned about in our high school or college days, you know, speaking slowly and clearly, maybe having some energy in your voice, pause for clarification or draw the reader in with some different pronunciations. So it's a really great way to kind of re-engage your students. So think about that, and also think about how much information you're really going to share per slide. Now, again, if you have 40 slides and you're really good at presenting, you may or may not want to use this method about doing audio files for each slide. You might just want to do a QuickTime recording or a screencast. There's a lot of different benefits to this way, especially from year to year. If just one slide changes or your department decides to delete these 2 slides. The other really, really cool benefit of this is more than one person can collaborate and put audio on this presentation. So if I'm doing this presentation with Ms. Voss, I can tell her to do the first 10 slides and I'll do the next 10, and we can each do our own audio whenever we want. So that's an added bonus, I feel. So that's kind of great too. So moving on then, we did step 1, we created the audio, we saved it to your desktop. Now, step 2, I'm going to show you where you put your audio files. You gave me a thumbs up and you indicated you have 1 or 2 saved somewhere that we can move to our Google Drive. So what I do, I'm going to make a folder. I'm going to jump out to my Google Drive, and here's your Google Drive. And I'm going to put this in a specific folder. Like I might have a US history class folder. So my drive's loading here. I got a few things in here. I'm going to put this folder in my fall back to school PD sessions. So up under the button, I'm going to say plus new folder. And I'm going to name it, and I'm going to name it audio files. And I'll explain why I'm just giving it a basic name like this.
Mark, can I have you, can we just create one more folder just to show everybody again if they were trying to follow along?
Sure. So you're going to put the folder where you want it. So right now I'm on the folder back to school because I want this folder within that folder. But if you just want the folder at the root level of your drive, you would be on my drive. I'm going to be on fall back to school. I'm going to click the plus button and say folder, and I'm going to call this audio files part 2 because I already did one. So this is part 2.
Thanks.
And I say create, and you can see now I have audio files and audio files part 2. Now, you can't see my desktop, but you'll just have to trust my audio file is there. And I'm going to take that audio file and I'm going to now drag it. You can see my screen kind of turning a little bit blue. I'm going to drag it and I'm going to put it in that audio files folder. So right there, I landed in my audios file folder. And it says uploading. And when I click on that, I now see my slide 1 audio training file. So I'll give you a couple minutes to make a folder somewhere where you feel it would be relevant for you. And then we'll see if you can add 1 or 2 of your audio files in there. Now, sometimes, just as a tip or a trick, you'll notice I had all my file folders listed here. Some people prefer to double click on the audio files folder itself, and then you have a big area to work with. Now it's a bigger kind of landing spot. So if you prefer to open the folder directly, just so it's a little easier to drag your audio files in. So I'll go ahead and be quiet for a couple minutes while you move your audio file over to your Google Drive. How are we doing, everybody? Are there clarifying questions? Deb needs 1 more minute. Okay, I'll give 1 or 2 more minutes. Okay, the next,
Mark, can you do a quick pause?
Sure,
Sorry, we
sure.
had a couple people ask about like the names of my files didn't change, you know, like they didn't get the same prompt. So Jamie said I changed my Chrome preferences, but it's not prompting me to change the name. Jamie, I usually then have to go to that file, right click on it and rename it is what I do for that.
make sure when you do that, if there is an ending extension that you keep that. So if it ends with, mine ends with .mp3, make certain you don't delete the .mp3 portion. So right click as Ms. Fossey said, and then change it to whatever you'd like.
Thanks, Mort.
Mhm. So before we get too far, we do have to make certain that these audio files that we use, that people aside from ourselves can listen to. Because have you ever been shared a link only to find out you didn't have access to the presentation, or you didn't have access to a few links within the presentation? You know, now that we're getting a little bit more advanced with embedding links within presentations or links within links and all sorts of things, we want to make certain that that folder that our audio files are in are viewable to anyone. Otherwise, when kids go ahead and click on your presentation, they'll have access to your presentation, but they will not have access to the audio file within your presentation. So what I like to do from the very beginning, when I'm back at my audio files folder, I like to right click on that, and I like to say share. And from the get-go, I like to make sure that anybody in the Verona Area School District could listen to it. Now, nobody's going to kind of find it on their own. They're only going to be able to really listen to it theoretically if they're in your presentation and click on the thing. So I wouldn't be concerned that, you know, a teacher in the district is randomly going to find these audio files. There are many things in the district that are changed to, right now it's restricted to people only with this link, but I'm not giving everybody a link to that audio file. I'm giving them the link to my presentation, which is different than the link to all these itty bitty audio files. So I prefer, I'm going to say done and I'm going to go back in. I prefer to share, and I prefer to give everybody in the Verona Area School District, meaning all students with their Google accounts, access. Now anybody has access. And I don't have to copy this link and send it to anybody. They just have access. So I'm going to hit done. So now is the exciting part. Now we're actually going to insert this audio file in our Google Slide presentation. So I'm going to demonstrate how we do that, and then I'm going to give you time to open up a Google Slide presentation, even if it has, you know, maybe one or two slides on it, and insert. So the process is going to be this. I'm going to go up under the word file, and I'm going to, oops, excuse me. I'm going to go under the word insert. I was demoing the drive feature. Insert, and I'm going to click audio. And I should be on the slide that I want that audio file to go in on. So I'm going to say audio. And the reason why before I said it didn't really matter too much which folder, for some unique reason, whenever you pick audio, it brings you specifically to all your audio files. So notice that even though this first one was in a folder, it doesn't really show me that folder structure or anything. It's just kind of like has one big area where all audio files go. So I called mine slide 1 audio training. So I'm going to select that and it's going to insert. And you see here this little circle, and maybe I go into present mode so you can see it a little bit bigger. I think I have to be out of present mode to actually show you the features. So you can see it has this circle here, and I can play it. So bear with me while I play this.
Good morning to you.
Oh, that's me.
Oh, that
That's
was
me, Lord.
that was Vossi's little file we were practicing with. So with this, I know sometimes people might like this icon here because it's very visual where students click. Others might want to hide the icon when presenting. So over on the right-hand side here, I know this is kind of small to see, but I might want to start this automatic, and I might want to hide it when I present. So now I'm going to go into present mode, and you're going to see that this starts automatically, and the icon's not going to be there for anybody to see.
Good morning to you.
So those are some various features that, you know, as you want to learn more sophisticated ways. I mean, personally, probably starting out, I might want to have that icon very visible so kids understand that there's an audio file attached to that.
I think too, more adding to what your purpose is. If your purpose is that each slide that they can go back and potentially repeat it, let's say you're working on vocabulary development or like you're doing steps of a process, then you might want to keep that visible.
Mm-hmm. So there was a question in the chat that said from Tammy that her recording changed to HTML when she dragged it into the Google folder. Tammy, can you verify that on your desktop it really was a .mp3 file? Mine actually says the name and then it says .mp3. If it wasn't an MP3 file, sometimes people, when they get to a site like this, can be tempted to click like this download button up at the top, but that will download lots of different things. It's just this save button you want. And the save button, when I do that, the only other thing, Tammy, you might want to check is right here where it says format. I make sure my format is on MP3. So if for some reason you have other unique ways to save it, you might want to make sure it's on MP3. Those are the only two things I can think of that would maybe kind of stump us today, is maybe you clicked on something other than the save button, and maybe your file format is something other than MP3.
Yep. Mark, do you want to give them a little chance to practice this?
Yes, I definitely will.
And then later when we come back, I do have a question for everybody, but I think like where we're at is it's good to practice first.
Yes, and when you practice, when you start a Google Slide presentation, or maybe you have one already, when you insert audio, make certain when you're practicing, you actually put it in present mode. When you put it in present mode, it will tell you, like on this screen, it'll tell you if people need access. It'll say 3 audio files you're not granting permission. And so you'll know right away if it's working. So does anybody need me to demo the process one more time before we send you off to practice?
I'm not seeing anything in the chat, Rita.
So Kathy asked a great question. Can we say anyone with the link in case families want to watch it? Certainly. We did test this with Seesaw users in our presentation last week and it worked fine. We know it works in Canvas because we've tested it, but if you want, you know, parents to be observers of certain classes or courses or have access, you can, or maybe you're doing this for staff PD. You know, Lori Burgos does a phenomenal job of doing this on her presentations. She has the little audio slide we click, so it could be done for PD and other uses.
But if it's going to kids, then you could just use the Verona area school district, because then they're opening it with their iPad, they're going through Seesaw or Canvas to do it.
Ms. Voss, why don't we give them about 4 minutes to practice? So I'll go into radio silence mode.
Copy that, radio silence.
Okay, why don't we come back together and see how that worked for everyone? See what our successes were. Can you share in the chat or come off mute if you were successful in adding an audio file and trying it? Super easy, Kathy says, love it, worked really well. And Kathy, you went into present mode to make certain that you didn't get that little error that I got, that people need permission. Yes, good. Thanks, super easy, success. Seen lots of successes. Ms. Fossey, you're on mute.
Sorry, I went to radio silence and forgot to come back out. Angie asked, could you show again how to make it so you can hide the icon?
Sure. So when I click on this button here, and I'm not in present mode to do this, so you click on this icon, and when I click on that, you should see a format option come up on the right-hand side. And you can do a lot of different things. You want to make sure your audio playback is extended. I'm not going to worry about color or position, things like that. Right now, I'm going to worry about my audio playback. So you can say hide when presenting, or if you want to get creative, you can even put, like, I'm going to drag this smiley face over it and bring my smiley face to the front if you want it done automatically. So you can do a lot of different things, but
Yep. And
the formatting.
Then Rita, the second thing is somebody said, can you move your audio button around on the screen?
You sure can. You can have it always in the same specific position for students, whether it's at the top or the lower right. You can see I'm moving it around right here. I can even resize it if we have younger students that want to have a nice big landing spot for the audio, or you can make it small. Great. I'm glad that worked great. And remember, you have access to all of these Google Slides, so you can work through this with another colleague or try it again on your own. You can kind of have this up on your iPad and kind of go step by step through our process.
Mhm.
There are two additional things I want to share before we move on to some extended learning. Two things that, since we are using Google Slides to do this, there are two great sites here that provide a lot of neat free slide templates. One is called Slides Carnival and one is called Slides Go. I'm going to click on Slides Go to show you how this works. Slides Go is one of my favorite now, and I'll tell you why. It's one of my it's one of my favorite because not only is it free, but it has this little arrow here that allows you to see exactly all the slides you're getting before you kind of put it into a bigger view. So there's lots of different templates here on all sorts of things. And it just goes on. There's, I don't know, I didn't even get to the end. There's probably 200 or 300. So when I want to use this one, and many times I pick a slide deck, you can see there's 54 slides in this deck. I'll pick it just for maybe 3 of the slides that I want to use. I don't often use all of the features that they provide. So the key then is to click on this Use a Google Slides theme. You don't click any of these other download buttons or anything. You just click this big button that says Use a Google Slide theme, and I click on that. And it will always ask you to make a copy, whether you're in Slides Carnival or Slides to Go. So it's making a copy. And when it does, I can save this now anywhere in my drive. I would suggest getting rid of this word copy of, because that's a really good tip to students and others that you got it from somewhere else or got it from another colleague. So you always want to get rid of that copy of and call it, you know, AP whatever, whatever. The other thing on this slide, they'll always start with like instructions and things like that. You can certainly get rid of. I get rid of a lot of these things that are kind of complicated to fill in. So I just might keep like even those top 3. But then way down on the bottom, what you always want to keep is the thank you slide that gives credit.
Thank you, Rita.
You're always going to want to keep that slide to give credit for the presenters. Now you can delete this stuff here. You don't have to put your email and stuff like that. And you can make this bigger, but you always want to keep that last slide there for credit. And then a lot of times I'll snoop around at some of these little icons, which are kind of fun. But aside from that, I'll go ahead and get rid of all of these. And I might just use the first 3 slides over and over and over and over. And another tip I'll give you is if I were to use this is kind of, it's a little bit much to fill in. So I'll delete those and delete these, and I might keep this clip art there, but I might call this agenda. Whoops, if I could spell that. And then I might make my own text box for point 1, point 2, hang on, point 3, and I'll make that white and big and a bigger size, like 30. And I'll put the formatting that. And then after I do this, because this is really like my instructions and all sorts of things, why will that not turn white? It's always gray. Custom, there we go. Then I'll duplicate that over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And that's kind of like my instructions.
Yep. Rita?
Yes, I jib-jabbed long enough, I can see.
No, you're great. So they're loving the fact that you're slowing Slide Mania and Slideshow and Slide Carnival. They're saying all their joy with that. Kathy Collier mentioned that she put a folder with slide templates in her stuff, so she has them all in one spot already downloaded. Carrie Punzel said, can you import presentations in Keynote and from Keynote and PowerPoint into Google Slides?
PowerPoint, yes. If I were to go into my drive and I would say new, and I would say upload file, I can find Google, I can find PowerPoints and they will transfer probably 99% of the content. Keynote's not so good, not so much on Keynotes. So, but what you could do on Keynotes, you could open Keynotes, and I think you can export Keynotes in a couple different.
Into Google Slides, can't you?
I don't think you can export them to Google Slides, but I think you can do, I don't currently have a Keynote. Let me see if I can fire up a Keynote here to just demo it real quick. It's a little more clunky. How do you remove audio files from a slide if you want to change it? Great question. Let me get back to our audio. What you would do is, sorry, Miss Vossi, you got to go. I'm highlighted here and I just hit delete. Just with my delete key on my keyboard.
Just like you would do a normal picture or a text box that you didn't want, Lorinda.
So I'm trying a Keynote right now and I'm saying file, export. It allows me to export a Keynote to PowerPoint or a PDF. So you might have to even go do a 3-step conversion. You might have to export it to PowerPoint and then import your PowerPoint into Google Slides.
All great questions.
Yeah, very great question.
Really, really good questions.
So Ms. Voss, we have about 5 minutes before we're going to send them on their way to take the survey on their own. If you're just joining us, we kind of have to end this Zoom about 10:02 and have you take your survey on your own because I start another presentation on the hour with my good friend, Shelley Burns. So I do have to have a little time to open that room. But Vossi, take it away on this slide if you would, please.
Yes, so in the chat, just so we can see how this might be used, because the learning is in the house, it's here on this chat right now. What are some other uses for audio files that you might be able to do? So for example, I'm thinking of, we were talking to somebody who teaches medical terminology and they're like, one of the hardest things is the language acquisition. So even just working on vocab development. What might be? All right, so we are seeing read alouds, language. Yep, detect, I don't know how to say it, Jessica, but I'm hoping it's detect. Listening activities. Some people like to use it for direction giving or just so kids can hear the directions along with see the directions.
That's a really good point. I mean, you could include audio slides and some students may or may not have to click on them all the time to listen, but these are the things. These are the things that kind of separate this from doing a screen recording, which is different than doing a QuickTime screen recording or a Cast-O-Matic where you're making a movie really.
Yep, and then Rita, can I just kind of step in and making sure, so when you are thinking read alouds for books, friends, realize that there are some parameters around what is honoring the spirit of copyright and fair use and what is not. So just kind of maybe connect with your librarian, just reading the book to read the book. We can't do, but what you could do is kind of transform that book. So as I am reading, the second thing is if you are copying pages from the book, you're actually making a copy of the book, which goes against copyright. So just kind of keep that in mind. If you've got some free things that are coming out, that works great. But just kind of remember that we have to honor fair use and copyright as we go through. Reading directions, oral directions. They can, students, thank you, Caitlin, could record their own and send it back. Book talks. All right.
Ms. Vossi, I think we are going to have to give them the survey link so they all can have access to it before I log off in 2 minutes.
I see that you've done it. Thank you, Rita.
So can everybody click on the survey link before I end this session just to make sure you have it? And I want to make sure everybody has the presentation as
This
well.
is how we do attendance too, so you can get paid.
Yes, and just an FYI, you don't have to enter anything into Skyward. If you have entered your attendance here, Ms. Voss and I, we will give that to Missy and that's entered in automatically for you, so you do not have to do anything in Skyward. Also, there were more sessions that opened up today, and other sessions, the limit was up to 40. So if you were trying to get into other sessions, you definitely can. Thumbs up if you have the survey link and the presentation.
Oh, I can't see the people. I've lost my.
Good, I see a lot of thumbs up. We totally welcome that your feedback since we have several more sessions on this. And we love your examples on how students are going to use this. This is going to be key for them.
Mhm. And as we said, this is one purpose. Depending on what your needs are, you might find a different tool works, but this definitely has a presence and can be used in your classrooms. Rita, any chance that you could show the credits in our presentation too, so we can honor that spirit of joy?
Well, they have the presentation, so it is
yep.
on the last slide. So we were honoring that, I think, by.
Copy that. Oh, it says I'm supposed to be someplace. All right. With that,
Any last things before I log off? When I end the session, it'll end it for everybody. So I wanted you to be aware of that. So any last bit?
I'm stopping the recording.
Thank you.